Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your patience and for waiting. Obviously, we're running about 30 minutes behind schedule. So this is going to be the side event for the Food Environment Working Group consultation, where we're going to revisit the Food Environment Working Group's conceptual framework that we published in 2018. Obviously, some 7 years ago now, so it's taken a while. But as I said, my name is Chris Turner. I'm a senior lecturer in food systems and public health nutrition at the Natural Resources Institute, University of Glasgow. Sitting around in the lobby for a while, so thank you very much. So without further ado, the aims for this session are really to bring together the ANH community who are interested in food environment research. We want to revisit the framework, as I said, from 2018, and hold a consultation, so really get your views and allow you to have your say, how you've potentially used the framework, what you think works well, but also what you think might be missing or we could improve upon as we look to revisit the framework and potentially update it going forwards. So just by way of background, I was really fortunate alongside my PhD to lead this Food Environments Working Group as part of the ANH Academy from 2015 to 2020. And Sunitha Kadiala, who's down here, put together this working group and invited along a series of experts on food environments to really start to think through concepts and methods for food environment research in low and middle income countries. And so until this point, a lot of food environment research had been conceptualized and implemented in high-income country contexts. So it was very much focused on market-based vendors, particularly formal markets. But increasingly, as we saw the shift in the food systems agenda, let's say, there was increasing recognition of the role in food environments as this key interface within the wider food system. And we started to see people looking to apply food environment research in low middle income country contexts as well. But what we didn't see was really that conceptual underpinning. And so this is what this group really set out to explore. So we held a series of consultations with the working group. We then held an event at ANH 2016. Anybody in the room from 2016 in Addis? So it was quite a while ago. Sunitha's waving at the back. But obviously, we really had a great engagement from the ANH community. We took forward all the feedback on that, and then we published this technical brief in 2017. So I then went and refined some of these concepts further and published this paper as part of my PhD research, where we really sought to put forward some of these concepts and critical perspectives for food environment research in LMICs. We also presented as part of this paper a globally applicable framework, which is what we're going to discuss today, and really looked at some implications for action. So just by way of background, this is one of the first diagrams from the paper. We really wanted to put forward this idea of the food environment as being this key interface within the wider food system. So that's what we have here. We have farm all the way on the left, all the way to flush on the right-hand side. We've got the food environment as this interface, or this white sphere there you can see in the middle. And then we really recognize these diverse food sources. So as you can see here, we've got market-based sources, which is A. These could be formal or informal. We've got own production, which could be rural or peri-urban or urban. We've got wild food harvesting there in C, and then also gifts and transfers among citizens there, D. As you can see, we've got the individual in the middle, and we recognize that interactions between people and these diverse food sources is what we consider to shape food acquisition and consumption practices. So taking that one step further, we put together this conceptual framework where we really wanted to take a socio-ecological approach to really unpack these interactions between people and their food environment. And so that's what you can see here. We've got the food environments in the center as this white box this time, or this interface. And then we recognize these two different domains. We've got the external domain on the left-hand side. And this is very much, you could think of this very much as the world that's out there that people interact with. So we've got food availability, food prices, vendor and product properties, and marketing and regulation. Then to the right-hand side, we've got the personal domain. So these are dimensions that are very much relative to individuals. So we're talking about food accessibility, food affordability, convenience, and desirability. And as I said, interactions between these various domains and dimensions are what we consider to shape food acquisition and consumption practices. So it's fair to say that since then, as I said, it's around 7 years ago now. So since then, our conceptual thinking has continued to evolve as we've sought to apply and test these concepts across LMICs. So this is a paper we published in 2021 in Global Food Security, where we worked with the Drivers of Food Choice program and really looked at their portfolio of 15 different projects across 12 low middle income countries. We worked with the principal investigators, as well as looking at some of the emerging evidence from these studies to really understand and try and contextualize this food environment framework within their studies on drivers of food choice. So here's an exploded view of the framework. As you can see, we've got the external and personal food environment domains. As I said, I led the working group alongside my own PhD research at LSHTM from 2015 to 2020. And so I was also starting to apply and test these concepts. Throughout my own research, I kind of recognized the role of food safety. Previously, it was under vendor and product properties, but it was such a big thing in my PhD research, which is in peri-urban Hyderabad in India, that we decided to elevate it here into being its own dimension, really to recognize the role of sort of perceptions of adulteration and contamination concerns. I also recognize the role of social capital, and this was a big one, in terms of networks and trust and reciprocity between known people in the food environment, and the role of those relationships between sort of citizens and vendors, or consumers and vendors, if you like. But also peer influence, and particularly in relation to children and adolescents in that setting in peri-urban Hyderabad. So as I said, we also work with the Drivers of Food Choice program, and the PIs from these projects sort of recognize the influence of wider food system drivers, some more sort of the upstream end of things in terms of climate, land use change, tenure systems, and agrobiodiversity, as well as stability in terms of seasonality and food security. In the personal food environment domain, we recognize the importance of equity and gender dynamics, as well as social forces, and then perceptions of safety and quality. So very much the flip side of food safety, if you like, from the external domain. So as you can see, our thinking has continued to evolve over time as we've applied and tested these concepts. This is perhaps a little bit of a cheat sheet, maybe, or some inspiration for what we're going to do next in terms of the interactive session. So more recently, the Amana team reached out, and they're interested in doing an impact case study on the food environments working group and the framework. And so this was recently published on the ANH website under the Food Environments Working Group tab. So if you're interested, you can go and take a look there. I won't go through all the detail here, but we put together a timeline where we essentially mapped the engagement and the uptake of this work, whether it be with sort of policy engagement, or with students, or with researchers, and in terms of the different outputs as well. So here you can see through the years all the different outputs that we've been working on. And that brings us all the way down to today in 2023 here in the room at ANH. And so what I'd like to do for this session is basically pose these three guiding questions. So first of all, what's the use? And I don't mean throwing my hands up and saying, what's the use in doing all this conceptual work? But actually, how have you used the conceptual framework? Also, what works? What have you found to be most useful either from fieldwork experience, or in terms of study design, or that type of thing? But also, what's missing? What might we consider as we look to update and refine this framework off the back of all this learning that's happened over the past 7 years or so? I just want to put it out there, we're not really super precious about this. We're quite open to different opinions and different inputs. So there's no real right or wrong answers here. We're just looking to garner your kind of perceptions and your feedback. So I think for now, I'll just leave this as a holding slide for the next part of the session. The Zoom participants and the Zoom facilitators, I'm happy for you guys to go and start working on this on the Padlet that we've got online. What I should say is that there is an interactive Padlet, which is the online resource, which contains a framework, and you can also put posts in there related to this framework. So if you've got colleagues who either aren't here in the room today, or maybe aren't able to attend online, there is opportunity, and we'll keep this open for a good 3 weeks after the conference, and we'll be updating this on Twitter so people can contribute in the coming weeks as well. But I think for now in the room, we've got some flip charts down here. We've got some printouts of the framework as well, so we can hand those out. I think there's around 10 of them. We've got Post-it notes, we've got things. So we're going to put the 3 questions on those 3 boards over there. And really, as much as anything, it's an opportunity to mingle and talk to each other and get to learn about each other's food environment research, what we're doing, but also reflect on a framework. So we're going to do that for about half an hour. And then I'll come back just for 5 minutes to close and give some next steps. And then it's time for the drinks reception. So if that's all good, can the team at the back, can you mute the room so for the Zoom participants? Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry to break off all these really exciting discussions. Now you've just got into the flow of it, but we've kind of running out of time. So in terms of wrapping up from this session and the next steps. So if you're interested in being kept informed in kind of as we synthesize some of this material and take this forward and start thinking about how to potentially revise and let's say update this framework, please do sign up for more information. There's a QR code here on the slide. which you can fill out a Google form just to give us your name, your email address, and we can keep you informed with the next steps. Obviously, the next immediate step is a drinks reception, and I think the buses are waiting for us outside. Following that, we'll have a synthesis of your feedback, not immediately after the drink section, but probably in a few weeks. And then we'll follow up with a blog on the ANH Food Environment Working Group webpage, where we will synthesize the material and present this. From there, as I said, we'll keep you posted. I think we need to do some stock taking and think amongst ourselves in terms of, what the next steps will be and how we approach this. But please do sign up if you're interested, and I'd really be pleased to work with you all on taking this forward. Marouche, you want to say something? You want to plug it? Please plug it.
Hey. Hi, everyone. My name is Marouche. On Friday morning, I'm organizing a side event with FAO, and where I'm actually using this framework to understand the drivers of supply and demand for terrestrial animal source foods. So perhaps we can take some of the critical thinking that is in this room here to that session at 8:30. I don't know which room it is in at the moment, but it's on Friday, the 30th of June at ANH Academy Week.
Brilliant. Thanks, Marouche. So yeah, hopefully see you all there on Friday morning. I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone that's been here today. It's been really interesting to hear discussions. Happy to continue them later at drinks reception. Big thank you to all the facilitators, to Lydia, who's here in the room with us, to Leah and Olive, who've been facilitating online. Thanks again to all the participants online on Zoom. I know you've been kept a bit longer than anticipated, but we're really pleased that you could able to join in. As I said, we will be keeping a Padlet open. We'll be tweeting about this going forward. So if you have colleagues or you have other thoughts and things you want to get down, you'll be able to do that online as well going forwards. But a big thank you again, and hopefully continue discussions later tonight. Thanks all.